All right, welcome back. In this lesson today, we'll be talking about progression in mileage for the moderate and high mileage runner. This is using artificial mileage ranges that I've chosen, being 30 to 60 miles for the moderate mileage runner and greater than 60 miles per week for the high mileage runner. So this is a bit of a sequel, you can call it, from my last video on progression for low mileage runners. If you'd like, you can find the written version of this lesson as well as all my other lessons by enrolling in my course called the Peaks Formula on my website, peaksrunning.co. With that being said, we'll get into it. So moderate and high mileage runners, again, using these artificial mileage ranges that I've chosen, generally represent a different kind of runner than the one in the low mileage group. Those in the low to middle of the moderate range training volume group will say like 30 to 45 miles per week. They're likely at least runners that have considered themselves committed to pursuing personal best or even competing across longer distances, such as the half and full marathons. With different levels of commitment and goals come different expectations between the coach and athlete relationship, and that's what we start to see as we have athletes going into higher mileages with their training. One of the big shifts that we'll see here is from general to specific fitness. So just as you would with the low mileage runner or any other runner for that matter that wants to improve, the first task is evaluating what the athlete is currently not doing that can be added into the training schedule. One difference with the moderate mileage runners from the low mileage runners is that with the low distance runners, for the most part, they will all be training for or racing distances on the shorter side, anywhere from, we'll say, 1 mile to 10K. You'll rarely, if ever, see somebody training for a marathon while running only 20 miles per week. As people begin to progress into the moderate mileage group, you will start to see athletes that want to or currently are training for long distances, such as the half or full marathon, even though they may only be running or tolerating 40 to 50 miles per week because of a number of limitations, being physical, if work, family responsibilities, etc. And this can be fine, and many do just fine. I have athletes that I coach in this mileage range running marathons, and they do just fine. The key thing to note in this case is that distances become the primary training stimulus that changes as the athlete moves up in distance. Easy runs become longer, workouts comprise more total volume, and long runs become really long, at least 20 in most cases for marathon athletes. The athlete needs greater general endurance and physical adaptations to be able to withstand the pounding of 26.2 miles. And for those that are running more mileage than they have in the past, this change alone will likely provide more than enough for them to handle. So depending on their training background and how much training they can handle with their daily lives, making sure I'm locking in those adaptations to me is my number one priority from the perspective of a coach. And this is much different for the 40 mile per week athlete training for the 5K. For this athlete, workouts with 12 miles of volume or 20-mile long runs would be considered excessive and unnecessary, with likely a high risk of injuries. The key for the runner in the moderate mileage group is to now realize this need to begin to hone in on specificity to make sure they're properly constructing their workouts and allocating their mileage in a way that best prepares them for the race distance that they are training for. This means that if they are only able to run 40 miles per week and are training for 5K, they would probably get more benefit physiologically out of working up to being able to tolerate 30 minutes of total running at their anaerobic threshold pace than they would be by running 15 miles easy, for example. While the low mileage runner tends to be weaker across the board due to a decrease in general workload, prompting them to really need to train in all facets, the moderate mileage runner will have a greater structural and general aerobic fitness that will allow them to start focusing on the minute details that will help them to progress across a certain race distance. Now we'll get into talking about high mileage runners, which in many ways are a different breed. So again, in referring to high mileage runners here, I'm talking about anybody that runs at least 60 miles per week or more. And really, these can comprise runners competing in events even as short as the 800 to 1500 meters when you're talking about the college to elite level, beginning from late high school age into adulthood. One commonality they all share, regardless of their race distance or ability, is a certain level of commitment that can't be questioned. This level of commitment is important because if they're already doing quite a bit in terms of running volume and want to do more in general, then it gives the coach full reign to explore all the potential avenues to exploit to help the athlete improve. Because the quote-unquote high mileage runner could refer to several different athletes based on age, talent, and race distance, there is no one heuristic to apply on how to help the high mileage runner progress. The high mileage runner is a different breed from a talent, evaluation, and coaching standpoint, because most of them will likely have been running for many years to even be able to tolerate the high mileage. This means they'll likely have been exposed to a wide assortment of coaches and types of workout over time. This makes the job of the coach or very intuitive athlete more difficult when it comes to identifying which aspects of training have been lacking that could potentially make the difference in propelling the athlete into success in the future. Since what is missing is likely not mileage, the question is often what metabolic system has not sufficiently been stressed up till now. Ronaldo Canova often talks about trying to target and quote-unquote embarrass different biological systems in training, and this is something I aim to do with all the athletes I coach. Those runs in training that are really stinking hard, and you feel like you're holding on for your life, or the long run when you bonk hard and are riding for the struggle bus for the final 2 miles to your car. When you find yourself in those positions, those are often when you know you found a soft spot in your armor that's been cracked, and you'll come out of those sessions stronger than before. Maybe your mileage is right where it needs to be and you're hitting all the right workouts, but you're feeding hard at the end of races when others are kicking it in. For some, a good consistent strength program could be the one change that make all the difference for some athletes. So there are no simple answers. And for each athlete in this group, they should be valued on a case-by-case basis, likely with the oversight of a good coach or a core rider. Thank you.